Running a business can be tough because it's hard to know how much you're going to sell. But running a Kickstarter can be even tougher because not only do you not know how much you're going to sell, but you don't know how much you're going to need to manufacture, at least before the campaign anyway. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can make a budget for your Kickstarter campaign. I'll walk you through the process of making your budget on Excel with this special template that we've made. If you want to use what I'm using, you're in luck. This Excel workbook is downloadable and it's free. It's just like what you see on the screen, so the link is going to be found in the description of this video. My name is Brandon, here on behalf of Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping your orders, go to fulfillrite.com and request a quote. We've shipped thousands of Kickstarters and we're happy to help you ship yours too. The quote doesn't cost a thing, so if nothing else, you get some good information about pricing. Link in the description. But enough self-promotion. Let's make you a budget. Making a budget. On this Kickstarter budget, I'm not going to focus on startup costs or research and development, at least not that much. That's because so much of the business expenses are incurred after the campaign funds and depends on the order volume you need to fulfill. So whether you ship 100 board games or 10,000, you're going to pay the artist the same, you're going to spend the same amount on playtesting supplies and so on. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you how to use this spreadsheet. First, go over to the right and enter in your core pledge amount. That's the amount you think people are going to spend most frequently. Add in the percentage of extra units you want to order on top of what you need to ship to fulfill all campaign orders. You'll see the order fulfillment average in the same general section, but we're going to skip that for now. Also over here, you'll see the minimum order quantity. That's the MOQ. That's the minimum amount your manufacturer is willing to produce in a single run. Now let's look at these first two columns on the left, and I'll walk you through this top to bottom. At the top, you'll put in a hypothetical amount of funding which you could raise. Now I'm going to start fairly low here with $10,000, and Kickstarter and credit card fees will automatically calculate at 9%, which is a slightly high estimate. Chargebacks will automatically calculate at 3%, which is also an unusually high estimate. Your net funding is automatically going to calculate as Kickstarter funds you raised minus the fees and the credit card fees and the net funds, and that's going to ultimately end up being 88%, a conservative estimate. In the next section, the amount of units you need to ship will automatically calculate based on the funds raised. Then run size will automatically calculate as the greater of either the units you need to ship plus the extra units you want to ship, or the minimum order quantity. Now, if you're shipping multiple items, add-ons, etc., that adds more nuance to this, and we'll just build on this baseline budget. Estimating costs. So next, you will need to enter the cost of manufacturing, freight, and customs for each quantity by hand. At this point, I'll level with you. I can't talk you through this in a short video, but here's some resources to help you get those numbers. Here is a video probably up here on how to find a manufacturer. This will help you know where to start on that. Once you find a manufacturer you like, use the quotes they provide you in this budget. For freight costs, once you know how much your shipment will weigh and how large it'll be, go to Freightos and run some freight quotes. This will give you at least a ballpark idea of what freight's going to cost. Here's a video on how to do that. It's probably also up in this corner. And lastly, calculating customs is, well, that's really complicated, but if you go to Simply Duty, D-U-T-Y, you might be able to get a serviceable quote that's good enough for budgeting purposes. So enter in the kind of goods you're shipping, value of the shipment, where the goods are coming from, and where they're going, and you'll get an estimate that you can work with. URL is on screen. Just to help move things along, I'm going to go ahead and enter in a few stand-in values so I can keep showing you how this spreadsheet works. The last piece of manual entry here are your startup costs. That is, just plug in what it costs to get your product Kickstarter ready. Once you do enter in these figures though, your production costs will automatically be calculated by summing manufacturing, freight, and customs. Then, based on everything you've entered so far, you will see automatic calculations for the following: the per unit cost, per unit contribution margin, that is how much each unit is putting back into your pocket, campaign net revenue, that is how much your campaign is making minus what it costs to manufacture and ship, gross profit, campaign net revenue minus your startup costs, not accounting for taxes. And that's it. You got through it. Once you understand this basic concept, you can run a bunch of scenarios very quickly for different funding amounts. That makes this a really powerful tool for helping you imagine how different fundraising levels might impact your business. Estimating demand. Figuring out how much money you're going to make is a lot more fun than figuring out how much you need to spend. But of course, you don't want to pull the numbers out of nowhere. You need a system that's going to give you at least a reasonably good idea of how much revenue you're going to generate, because that's likely to tell you how many orders you're going to need to ship as well. So how do you do that? Continuing along with this downloadable spreadsheet we've been working with, go over to the Revenue Forecast tab. And while you're there, you'll see two sections, Simple Method and Advertiser Method. But we'll talk about the simple method for revenue estimation first. Okay, so first, as I zoom in on the simple method, I want to quickly give you a sense of where this data comes from and the assumptions that underlie it. Marketers generally consider the size of your mailing list to be the best indication of how much funding you are going to raise. This is because a lot of Kickstarter creators push people to a mailing list in advance of the campaign. It's one of the most reliable ways to get people to the campaign page when it really counts. Not only that, but anyone who's willing to hand over their email address is a lot more likely to buy than, say, a social media follower, which doesn't count for much. Email marketing is also good because the techniques you use to collect those emails, that is making landing pages, running ads, and all that other stuff, help answer one really critical question. Do people care enough to buy this thing? And look, that's a huge question, and one that I honestly cannot answer for you in the scope of a 10-minute video. But as a marketer myself, I strongly encourage you to validate the market before you try to kickstart a campaign. Or put more simply, just make sure the answer to that question is yes. So with that in mind, to use this revenue estimator, you will need to enter 5 things. Mailing list size. That's the number of people you expect to be receiving your emails on launch day. Conversion rate. A certain percentage of email recipients on your list will back your campaign. Some people say 5%. I think 4% is a safer, more conservative estimate. Enter what you think is appropriate based on the existing data, such as open and click rates. Expected pledges from other sources. How many backers do you think will come from other marketing channels you have once you eliminate emails in Kickstarter itself? Be super conservative with the figure that you enter in here. Average pledge. Enter in your core pledge amount here. That's the most common amount that you expect people to enter. Kickstarter bump ratio. Kickstarter itself pushes people to your campaign, usually to a degree proportional to the backers you bring on your own. With most people I work with, Kickstarter tends to account for about 40% of funds raised, but if I entered in 30% by default, just to be safe here, you enter what you think is appropriate here. And then you'll see automatically calculated a revenue forecast generated directly from these numbers. In terms of both number of backers and funding dollars, you'll see a conservative and optimistic estimate, which respectively assume you put in numbers that are a little too favorable and a little too unfavorable. Keep in mind, this is just a model. Your campaign can raise far less than the conservative estimate or far more than the optimistic one. That's why it's super important to have a budget that accounts for all kinds of scenarios and a risk assessment that helps you prevent the worst ones. So over on the right, you'll see a slightly different model, one that assumes that you plan on doing advertising between now and the launch of your campaign. It's really similar to the model on the left with 3 differences in inputs. So you'll enter your current mailing list size instead of what you expect to have on launch day. Advertising budget, this is the amount that you plan to spend on advertisements between now and launch. You'll also enter in cost per lead. This is the amount it costs to collect an email address with ads. Now the result is going to be a model that predicts the amount of backers you will have based on your budget and your expected cost per lead. This is good if you're working with an established method, such as the one emphasized by LaunchBoom and other large agencies like that, where you have a landing page that you drive people to through ads on Facebook or similar platform. And there you have it. This spreadsheet will help you to create a rough budget for your Kickstarter. Be sure you fill it with the details that are very specific to your situation. We also strongly recommend you reach out to a tax professional as well. My name is Brandon, here on behalf of Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping your orders, go to fulfillrite.com and request a quote. We've shipped thousands of Kickstarters and we would be happy to help you ship yours too. The quote is free, so if nothing else, you get some good information on pricing. link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Don't forget to slap some postage on that bell so that we can express ship new videos to you as soon as they drop. And last but not least, if you have any questions, please leave me a comment below. Anything that you write down there, I will do my very best to personally answer.